We have the series, which is actually going on, like I said, as we speak. I do have it on here over the side, so if you see me peeking over there, I'm kind of checking, looking at the
Yep.
score, seeing what the
Same
pace of the
here.
game looks like. It's late in the second quarter, and it looks like Utah's up by 6, so closer game for sure. The Clippers don't have Kawhi, and I heard all the time, the whole time, that it was going to be potentially an ACL thing, and they were scared it might be even an ACL tear at the worst, or it might be a partial tear or something like that. That's basically going to keep him out of the playoffs. And it came back, I believe that it was a sprained knee, so it's just a sprain, which is
Wait,
still
really? Wait, when did
yes.
that come back? Like just
I
now?
I saw that got reported on Twitter by Shams. So I'm not 100% sure if that's fully true, but Shams is pretty reliable as far as NBA news. So that's what I heard from him, or that's what I saw from him. That's what I'm going with, is that it was a sprain. If that is the case, it's a better outlook for him. I don't know. Again, it's too soon and everything. I don't know what the outlook would look like as far as him making it. Like, if they made it to Western Conference Finals, would he even be able to participate in those? Or would it be one of those where his team would have to make it to the finals before he comes back? I don't know, but I do know that it's not going to matter because the Clippers are going to lose if they don't have Kawhi.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just, at the end of the day, I don't foresee the Clippers having enough to beat Denver. With just like, I don't, Paul George. We talked at ends last time about the Clippers and how Paul George is just not the guy. I love Paul George. I have his Pacers jersey, hung up in my closet. He's just not the guy. He's not an alpha. He's a guy who's a second, or third player on the team, or should be a second or third option as far as scoring. And he's now being asked to basically be the primary scorer, which might work for, a game, but it's not going to work for the playoffs. And so I very likely scenario is that the Clippers lose game 5 right now and then game 6 and are out of the playoffs. And then this whole Kawhi thing is like well, maybe they were good if it's the same situation that happened with the Spurs, where the Spurs were destroying the Warriors by like 30 points in game 1 of the series. And then Kawhi got injured on a illegal play,
Yeah.
and then, the Spurs lost the next 4 games, and everybody was like, oh, if Kawhi was there, they probably would have beat the Warriors that year. So it's the same kind of scenario where people are going to say, like, well, if Kawhi was healthy, look at how this team was playing. And it's like, yeah, but they're also the Clippers and, haven't been able to do it. And that's why there's talks of them getting Damian Lillard before they even are done with the playoffs. When that starts happening, when people start talking about like what the acquisitions could be to improve the team next year before they're even done, like in the playoffs, that's a good sign that your team is not expected to, go all the way. And I saw a thing that was like, if Kawhi's healthy, do you think the Clippers are the favorites in the West? And I was like, no. I was like, they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It was like, they should not be. Same thing with the Bucks. Like the Bucks, they could have the best record in the East. They should not be the favorites in the East because they haven't been able to do it ever.
Yeah.
If you did it the previous year, great. If you made the finals the previous year, great. Then, you deserve maybe favorite status. But same thing with the Clippers here. Just because they have Kawhi and Paul George has not meant anything. And so I'm not going to, call them a contender or call them the favorites until it means something, aka win the series. So,
Yeah.
we'll
So
see how that goes. Like I said, I do think that the Clippers are basically going to be knocked out after game 6. And I think you're going to end up with the Jazz Suns Western Conference Finals, which is just kind of a wild scenario and to begin with, because it's two teams that haven't been very good for years and then suddenly are at the top of the Western Conference, and it's awesome. And I love the small market teams getting, the notoriety and finally, building correctly, basically, which also, it's one of those where, getting, the big name players and stuff like that, like in the Clippers and the Lakers and all that, sometimes doesn't mean anything when, you put Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, you put a Donovan Mitchell is more of a scorer. Then you put, Rudy Gobert, who's a, great defense, great defender around with a bunch of good players, very good players that all fit and complementary to each other. And this is what happens is you get a good all around team that you're seeing in the Suns and now in the Jazz. and it's going to be awesome if those two teams play. So honestly, even if Kawhi is suddenly back next game and the Clippers maybe are the favorites, I'm still rooting for the Jazz because I still want to see the Jazz make it out because I think a Jazz Sun series is going to be fun and good for the NBA. You could say all you want about, well, they're not going to draw the same numbers that maybe the Lakers versus whoever is going to draw. Yeah, that's probably true, but also just for the sake of the NBA, I'm happy to see two teams that don't usually get there. So
and so just as an update too, so I saw the tweet from Shams at that time too. The most recent thing is thinking it's an ACL injury, and I believe so it does seem more serious. And I believe what they do, as I was reading about this, is the physical test, the actual test they do for the ACL is 99% accurate. It's very, very accurate, but apparently it's something called the drawer test. And I was reading about this as I was walking around, and it's kind of disgusting. But if you want to think about it in this way, I guess the whole point of it is to basically put your knee in a certain position that if they pull on it, if it comes out like a drawer out of a file cabinet, that means that it's torn, it's gone. There's no resistance. There's nothing holding that in place. And if there's resistance, then your ACL is still intact and you're in a good spot. I think the belief is that he failed that drawer test, whether it be, I don't know, maybe you have to be a full tear to get that drawer effect, or maybe it's just a partial tear, or there was pain, something like that. But the latest on it is that it is a very serious injury and he's probably projected to be out. I think they're just saying indefinitely. Even if it was a tear, it's supposed to be weeks at minimum.
Yeah.
To even be effective.
He'd be out for the playoffs, the entire playoffs. He's out.
Yeah, so it's looking very poor. They said the last update, I think, was from Ty Lue saying that they were going to get the MRI results in 48 hours. As they're, he's obviously trying to remain optimistic and hold out for that. But that's where it leans. So very not good. Very not good. Very bad day for injuries and players exiting the playoffs.
Yeah, which I did hear. I saw the tweets. I don't know if you saw them. Did you see the tweets from LeBron about the whole situation?
I did.
And everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of have to agree with him a little bit. Injuries are never good for any sport. Whenever you see injuries happen in a larger sum than normal, that's usually not a good sign. And especially guys like Kawhi. You want Kawhi in this playoff series because it's tied 2-2, and a Kawhi right now in this game might mean the difference between the Clippers making it to the championship or the Clippers getting knocked out in game 6, like I think they're going to. So it's one of those where when you see a star player like that go down, and it's going to affect the team greatly because of that and kill a team's championship hopes, basically. That's one of those where, I don't think he's wrong in that category, that, they need to really evaluate the way that it goes and everything, as far as, when they schedule games and how they're trying to get it compacted and, practice and, just everything, just as far as it goes.
Yeah.
And I do understand back in the day, yes, the players played all 82 or whatever you want to say, and, about it and everything. But it's one of those where, as the game goes, everybody gets faster, everybody gets bigger, everybody gets, just more athletic. That's what happens. There's a reason why, back in the day, the fattest player in the entire NFL was the Fridge, and the Fridge was listed at 305 or something like that. It was something stupid like that. He was bigger than 305, but he was listed low like that. And then you have guys like Mekhi Becton coming into the league who are 6'7", 360 and runs a 5 flat, which is insane for a guy his size. So
yeah, he wasn't even that big. Oh my god, that's why I'm looking at this. His weight was 335 and he was 6'2".
Yeah,
that's not even.
And he was literally people were oh my god, the Fridge, he's the biggest man in the entire. He's as big as a fridge, and it's
yeah, at the time,
look up Akeem Hicks. He's 6'5", 350.
That's a good comparison, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, Akeem Hicks is a bigger version of the Fridge.
He's 6'5", 325, so he's got 3 inches on him.
Yeah, he's listed at 325, but he's probably higher than that.
Yeah,
it's one of those where they always list him lower. But
he's listed at 347, 6'4" now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems more accurate.
That's more right. I was gonna say that's about right. So that's what I'm saying. It's just It's people don't realize that just people got bigger and faster. Like Julius Peppers did not exist 30 years ago. Like Julius Peppers being at the time a 6'8" man who people in practice used to say like, hey, the scariest thing about Julius Peppers was when I was running down the sideline, breaking away from everybody, and I turn and look over my shoulder, and Julius Peppers is catching up to me. Like that's a 6'8", 280-pound man who's catching up to a running back. Like that's the level of athleticism that we have in this league. I mean, look at DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, we talked about how him placing ninth in that race for the like, trying to qualify for the Olympics was like, oh, he placed ninth. It was like, yeah, well, he barely lost to a bunch of guys who are like literally 6 inches smaller than him and like 40 pounds less than him and have been training their whole lives for this. And then this man goes, I kind of feel like training for it for a couple of weeks. I want to try it out.
Yeah.
And then literally at 6'4", 240 ends up almost placing. Like it's just the level of athletes that are in the NFL and the NBA and everything nowadays is insane. And so I mean, look at Durant. Like it's 7-footer back then. You would have been lanky and you'd have been a center and you wouldn't have been nowhere near as athletic. Then you see Durant and you go like, he's literally 7 feet tall, can handle the ball like any point guard in history, and then can also shoot from literally anywhere, and it's just an impossible cover. Like you can't cover him. So it's just like it's the athletes in the world have changed, and so our protocols as far as practices, playing, games back to back or whatever it is, the rigorous schedule, travel, all that has to change as well. And I do think that that needs to be stressed a little bit more. They already do play 82 games. 82 games is a lot of games. It does wear on you over the course of a season. Just go look up the number of miles that Steph Curry runs over the course of a season. It's a stupid large number. It's ridiculous how much he runs during a game.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like, football players over in Europe and stuff with the Euros, 2020 that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Like they also run like crazy, and all those athletes are bigger and faster and than they used to be. So it's just that's the way the world goes. So they do need to evaluate a little bit the way that we handle injuries, the way that we load management has been a thing where I do kind of understand it. There's a reason why LeBron is still playing at this type of athleticism at his age and how many years he's been in the league. Like it's because he's taking care of his body, because of the load management type of seasons that he spent. And that plays into his longevity where he's played 17 years and is still playing at peak performance almost or near peak performance. And that's attributed to the way that he's handled his body and everything, and that's the way that the NBA needs to go. And so that's why it's, again, I don't disagree with him in the fact that athletes, they really needed to evaluate how they do that, especially with the NBA this year trying to compact everything and trying to make it go and and make it work. And this is what happens. Star players go down in crucial moments, and then the whole world gets mad about it. And now the series is nowhere near as enjoyable as it would have been if Kawhi was in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you probably say Kawhi is the best player in the series amongst these two teams. He probably is. So then, if that's the case, you're taking the best player out of the series, and then now trying to have the series go, and it's one of those where it's not obviously the production of the actual value you're going to get out of the series goes down.